19, 1 and 9, the alpha and the omega. I know you might just see a basic number, but if you look through the lens of history, numerology, astrology, and sacred geometry, you will notice that 19 isn't just a number, it's a code. In the language of the universe, the 1 is the spark, the pioneer, beginnings, creation, independence, the start of a cycle. But 9 is the completion. The number 9 in Hinduism is considered a divine and complete number because it represents the end of the cycle in the decimal system. But 9 is also known to represent the ego because it always returns back to itself. For example, when you multiply 9 by any number, the digits of that resulting product, when added together, ultimately reduce back to 9. So, here's some examples. 9 times 2 equals 18, right? But when you add the 1 and the 8 together, that equals 9. 9 times 5 is 45. 4 plus 5 equals 9. 9 times 13 is 117. When you add the 1 and the 7 together, that equals 9. You can do this with any multiple of 9. When you get the answer, add it together, and it always comes back to itself. When you look at it like this, you will see that there are only really and truly 9 numbers, unique numbers. 10 when you include 0. Technically, any number after 9 is just a repetition of the numbers that came before. Like for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. After that is 10, and 10 is a 1 and a 0. It's the same numbers we've seen before, which is why 9 is the omega. It represents completion, finalization, awakening, fulfillment, and the mastery of craft and wisdom. So when you fuse number 1 with the number 9, you get the paradox of 19, the spark of the beginning meeting the unbreakable self of the end. A number that has found its way into the pattern of our solar system. The moon and the sun are naturally out of sync. A solar year is 365 days, and a lunar year is 354. They drift apart, causing our seasons and our tides to slowly drift away from the calendar. But every 19 years, the universe performs a perfect silent reset. This 19-year cycle is called the lunar Metonic Cycle. After exactly 235 lunar months, which is exactly 19 solar years, the phases of the moon recur on the exact same day of the year. It's a celestial gear shift that occurs with 100% precision. 19 years to complete the loop. 19 years to bring the darkness and the light back into perfect alignment. But the number 19 doesn't just govern the tides of the oceans. It seems to govern the tides of human greed and global stability. If the heavens reset every 19 years, then let's just look at how the world's wealth follows the same cold lunar logic. So let's start the clock in 1989. This was the year of total systemic rupture. The Berlin Wall fell. The Japanese asset bubble, which was the largest of its time, burst. And the Black Monday aftermath finally forced a global economic pivot. And for those who don't know what the bubble is, like the bubble being burst is, in the world of finance, it's when the ego of the market grows so large. It's when everybody will believe that the price of something will just keep going up forever, driven by pure hype and speculation. But like any bubble, when it reaches its summit, it has nowhere to go but pop. In 1989, Japan's real estate was so inflated that the grounds of the Imperial Place in Tokyo were theoretically worth more than the entire state of California. But when that bubble burst, it didn't just hurt Japan, it forced a global economic pivot. And when that bubble burst in 89, it revealed a deeper truth. You see, the number 19 is considered a karmic debt number. In the study of numerology, the number 19 symbolizes a soul that must overcome the past life misuse of power. It represents the struggle between independence and self-reliance versus the need to learn how to accept help. Individuals marked by 19 are often forced to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet and to avoid over-dependence, while simultaneously balancing their selfish tendencies with altruism, which is the genuine concern for the well-being of others. And this is exactly what happens with these 19-year cycles of financial greed and reset. The world gets selfish, the bubble blows, and the universe demands a karmic payment to bring us back to the basics and to each other. Now let's follow the same cycle. Let's move exactly 19 years from 1989. This takes us to the infamous 2008, the year our global financial system hit the absolute fan. This was our Great Recession. The ego of the banks had reached their summit, and the karmic debt was called in. But at the same time, we had the birth of a new financial hope. On October 31st, 2008, in the middle of this financial wreckage, the Bitcoin white paper was released, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. A new path was born, a move towards the ultimate financial independence and self-reliance, exactly 19 years after the '89 crash. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's have a new starting point. Let's say 2001. We all remember the shock of 2001, right? A year that feels like a scar on the collective memory of humanity. 9/11. Look at the numbers. The 9 and 1. The summit and the spark. The end and the beginning. To make things stranger, did you know there was exactly 19 hijackers? 19 men who acted as the pivot point of the 21st century. It was a day that redefined global security and forced every nation on Earth into a new cold reality. But while the smoke was rising in New York, another fire was burning out. 2001 was also the year of the dot-com crash. For those who don't know, in the late 90s, the world went mad for the internet. People were pouring millions of dollars, pounds, money into companies that didn't even have any products, didn't have profit, and barely had a plan. They just had .com at the end of their name. It was like a digital Tower of Babel. Investors believed that they had transcended the laws of physics and economics. And doesn't that sound awfully similar to the '89 crash? All right, let's take it forward another 19 years from 2001. And yes, you guessed it. That lands us straight to the year 2020, the year of COVID-19, the year the world's economy didn't just stumble, it was forced into a complete synchronized halt. We were forced into isolation, forced to stand on our own 2 feet. So the first case of the virus was discovered in 2019, which we can see the 19 symbolism is right there. So yes, the first case was discovered in 2019, right at the end of 2019. But the lockdown and the market crash wasn't until 2020, caused by the 19 virus, and 19 years after 9/11 and the dot-com crash. But it was also the year that finalized the karmic debt of 2001. The universe demanded a total synchronized halt. This is the ultimate paradox of 19. It was a global time out. The 9 of our global expansion had reached a point of completeness, but not all completeness is positive, especially if we don't learn anything from the previous cycles. Clearly, the end of that cycle ended with such extreme ego and greed that the 1 energy had to pull the emergency brake and take us back to a fresh new start. But this is what makes me question if this is all scripted. Is this deliberate? Is it the force of nature, the divine order, or all of the same? Now let's move from the 19-year financial cycle to now the foundational text of the Quran. For centuries, the number 19 was just a verse. But in the modern age, the mathematical code 19 was unsealed. It begins with the very first breath of the book, the Basmala. It says, "In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful." In its original Arabic, this phrase is built of exactly 19 letters. The word Allah appears through the text 2,698 times. That's exactly 19 times 142. The words most gracious appears 57 times. That's 19 times 3. The words most merciful appears 114 times, and that's 19 times 6. But perhaps no faith center stages the number 19 more than the Baha'i faith. For them, the number 19 isn't just a hidden code, it is the literal heartbeat of their calendar. The Baha'i year is composed of 19 months, and each month has 19 days. In the Abjad system, where every letter has a numerical value, their word for the number 1 equals 19. By living in a 19 by 19 rhythm, they are literally walking through the cycle of oneness every single day. They recognize that every 19 days, the spirit needs a reset, and every 19 months, the soul needs a new beginning. Even the ancient biblical calendar of the Jews followed this 19-year Metonic pulse. The Hebrew calendar is a lunisolar calendar that uses the 19-year Metonic cycle to align its 12-month lunar cycle with the 365-day solar year. By adding a 13th leap month 7 times every 19 years, the calendar ensures that holidays always falls in the spring. The number 19 is even woven into sacred geometry, into the fabric of our reality, the flower of life. This isn't just an ancient symbol found in Egyptian temples. This is a mathematical blueprint. The complete flower is made of exactly 19 circles. And within these 19 circles lies every single mathematical formula, every law of physics, and every musical harmony known to man. It contains the fruit of life, which is the basis for Metatron's cube. To understand the 19 code in full physical form, we have to look at the 2 most transformative centuries in the recorded history of our species. For thousands of years, the pace of human life was a steady, rhythmic crawl. Then suddenly, we hit the 19th century, which is, funnily enough, the 1800s. What does 1 and 8 equal to? 9. It was as if a cosmic switch had flipped. Why, after a millennia of moving so slowly, did humanity suddenly possess the consciousness to invent a whole new world? This century saw a very sudden and very suspicious emergence of large-scale electricity and the birth of modern science on a global scale. We moved from the candle to current. It was a pressurized chamber of discovery that felt less like an accident and more like a download, a rediscovery, if that. Humanity began to harness the invisible forces of the universe, the ether, the frequency, the vibration. But with this new power came new hunger. The 19th century was the era of the great finalizing. It was the peak of colonization. The so-called New World was no longer a mystery to be explored. It was a map to be filled. The empires of that time spread across the globe like a nervous system, laying down tracks, cables, and borders. This created a chain of events that would change our DNA forever. Humanity began to merge for the first time in recorded history, and people were traveling across oceans in weeks instead of months. Cultures that had been separated by thousands of miles for thousands of years were suddenly forced to merge, to clash, to populate. We were witnessing the birth of a multicultural hot pot. As we've been discussing, the 9 is the number of finalization, that complete mastery, the ego, the summit. It is the point where a cycle reaches its absolute limit, forced to return to itself. When you look at the 1800s through this lens, you realize it wasn't just a century of progress, it was the grand final of the old world. This was the century when all of the discovering was done. This is when they stopped discovering and started claiming. The British, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese were all attempting to wrap the entire globe into a finished, conquered state, the end of the cycle. But the number 9 by itself also represents high idealism and dramatic change. As we said, this was the century where slavery was abolished, the birth of the steam engine, and the harnessing of electricity, so they say. It was the ego saying, I no longer need to rely on the wind or the horses. I have mastered the elements. By the late 1890s, the old world was exhausted. The empires were too big, the machines were too loud, and the ego was too heavy. The world was primed for a total reset. And that it did. It's now the 1900s. We've moved a century forward. Mathematically, as I mentioned before, we just moved from big 9 energy, which is, the 1800s, 1 plus 8 plus 0 plus 0 equals 9, into big 1 energy, the 1900s. 1 add 9 plus 0 equals 10. 10 really is 1. The 10 reduces to 1. This is the great handoff. The 9 energy of the 1800s had finalized the old world. By the end of the 1800s, a lot of things were finalized, and the energy of the 1900s, which is the 20th century, and start again. Remember, the characteristics of the 1 is the pioneer. This is the number of innovation, independence, and radical new beginnings. It is the I am frequency, the force that says the old ways are dead. I will create a reality that has never been seen. So the 1900s, literally symbolizing 1 energy, is when the speed of innovation really began to pick up. So much happened in the 1900s. That's from the year 1900s all the way to 1999. Hey, even I was born. And I'm sure all of you guys were too. Well, not all of you. I know there's a few youngsters here. In the 1900s, which I find very interesting, we saw the rise of the individual. We moved away from the slow collective empires of the 1800s and into an era of super personalities. This was the century of the dictator and the celebrity. The world became obsessed with this one person, the person who could change history. Remember, the 1 energy is also the number of force. Just like how a seed needs to break through the soil, which also means that the 1900s was also the most violent century recorded on history due to the numbers of lives lost. The 1900s was the most violent century in human recorded history. We had the pioneer spirit of 1, but we was using it to wield the destructive power of the 9 energy that we just mastered in the 1800s. The 19 was now in the name of the year itself, hence why that century just felt like so much happened. We saw the beginning, the endings of so many things. So many things started and finalized within the 1900s that most of us got to see in one entire lifetime. The 1900s was when we was finalizing that multicultural hot pot. The last corners of the maps were colonized. Now, let's move on to another 19 phenomena that I've noticed. AI, artificial intelligence. A is the first number of the alphabet. I is the 9th number of the alphabet. The A, which is the 1, birthed the creator, which would be the 9, the I, the all-knowing mind, mastery. But as we stand here looking at the wreckage of these cycles and the precision of the code, one haunting question remains, one that sits in the back of my mind a lot. Is this scripted? Is there a grand architect? An unseen hand moving the chess pieces on a board that we can't even see? Is someone or something making sure that whenever we think we finally reached it, the board is wiped clean? Are we trapped in a loop of doom where it feels like when the cycle ends, we've reached the summit and there's nowhere else to go but back? Or is it us? Are we doing this to ourselves? Is it possible that our collective energy, the weight of billions of humans' choices, the gravity of our shared greed and our shared fear is what leads us back to the start? Does our global consciousness hit a 9, a mastered level that is so heavy, so bloated that it naturally collapses under its own weight? Are we really progressing, or are we just building a taller tower every cycle, only to watch it fall? Are we setting ourselves up for our own failure, repeating the same karmic depth over and over because we refuse to learn? Or is this just a brutal force of nature, a loop that we cannot escape? Think about it. The 19 demands self-resilience and altruism. It demands the one to look out for the all. But every cycle, we choose the summit, the master, the ego. We choose the bubble, and we choose it without mercy. And so the script resets. Are we the players, or are we the code itself? If the universe is a simulation, then the number 19 is like the heartbeat of the processor. If the universe is divine, then the 19 is the breath of the creator. But if the universe is a mirror, then the number 19 is just a reflection of our own inability to change. Will we ever be the master of this script, or just another character written into this collapse? Can we break the cycle? Can we defy this code? Can we write our own scripts? When you stop being a predictable variable in their financial resets and their social engineering, the script breaks. You become a glitch in this simulation. You become an author of a reality that hasn't even been written yet, that hasn't even been coded yet. But reaching that state isn't just about understanding the numbers that we spoke about today. It's about understanding that hidden element. In my next video and in our next investigation, we're going to look at the only thing that maths can't touch. It's a state of being that I personally feel might be the crack for the code. I'm going to show you an area where I personally believe that this architect, this God, this simulation is afraid to be. It's an area where I believe even the code itself cannot be read. So do not miss my next video. Please, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, the whole shebang, whatever the YouTubers say. I am here to stay now, guys. I'm going to be doing this weekly videos, long form content. Your support will mean everything to me, as this is all I want to do now. I'm here to stay, finally. I know I keep dipping in and out. Those who've been with me from the start, I'm sending you love. Yeah, that's a good heart. I'm here to keep digging with you, so any support will be highly, highly appreciated, because it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And because of that, it does take up a lot of time. I have my Patreon channel in my link below. Got a link down there, buy me a coffee, where you can just donate and just support the journey, basically. I promise you, it's highly appreciated, and I love you guys. Be expecting to see a lot of me. I'm on every single social media platform. Well, the big four, right? The big four. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Yeah, the big four. I'm on all of them. The links are in the bio of my page, of my YouTube page. You can find where to find me on everything there. I need help on Facebook. I've just gotten started on my Facebook page. In the moment of making this video, I have 0 followers. Starting from now, I'll be uploading videos on there too. And I will see you on the flip side.